Her name was Mara, and she had not slept properly in 41 days. She kept count because that is what anxious people do. They count, they track, they measure the distance between where they are and where they need to be, and they convert that distance into numbers because numbers feel like control, and control feels like the only thing standing between them and complete collapse. 41 days, 41 mornings of waking up with a chest that felt like someone had piled stones on it overnight. 41 evenings of lying in the dark, replaying conversations, reimagining outcomes, rehearsing disasters that had not happened yet and might never happen but felt. In the theater of her mind at 2 a.m, absolutely inevitable, it had started with the diagnosis. Her mother's, not hers. Though some nights it was hard to tell the difference between carrying someone else's fear and living inside your own. Stage 2, treatable, the doctor had said. We caught it early. The doctor had said, but Mara had heard something else underneath the words, something the doctor had not said, but that her mind supplied anyway, helpfully, relentlessly, the way anxious minds always do. She had heard, but we cannot promise you anything. She had heard, but there are no guarantees. She had heard, but the world is uncertain and love is fragile, and everything you hold dear is held together by threads thinner than you know. So she counted the nights, and she carried the weight, and she got very, very good at pretending she was fine. Her church had a small Wednesday evening gathering, the kind that met in a side room with folding chairs and lukewarm coffee, and a dozen people who all looked like they were also pretending to be fine. Mara went because her mother had asked her to, and because she had run out of reasons not to, and because 41 sleepless nights had done something to her resistance. She was too tired to avoid things anymore. Exhaustion has a way of walking you through doors your pride would have kept closed. The pastor that evening was a small, older man named Brother Elias, who wore the same gray cardigan every week and spoke the way rivers move, not in a hurry, but going somewhere. He did not stand behind a pulpit. He sat in one of the folding chairs just like everyone else, and he read from Philippians, and he said something that Mara had heard before, but had never, not once, actually heard. He said, Paul wrote these words from prison. He let that sit for a moment. He did not rush past it. He let them feel the weight of the location. Prison, not a difficult season, not a hard year, not a season of uncertainty and waiting. Prison, chains, walls, the complete removal of freedom and future, and the ability to control a single thing about what happened next. That was where Paul was when he wrote, "Do not be anxious about anything." That was the chair he was sitting in. Except it was not a chair, it was a cell. That was the desk he was writing from. Except it was not a desk, it was a floor. Mara felt something shift in her chest. Not relief yet, just a crack in the stone. Brother Elias kept going. He talked about how we tend to read those words as instruction, as command, as one more thing we are failing to do correctly. Do not be anxious. And so we hear our own anxiety as disobedience. We hear our fear as failure. We come to God ashamed of the very thing He is asking us to bring to Him, which means we come to God hiding the thing He most wants to hold. He said, the invitation here is not to stop feeling. It is to stop carrying it alone. There was a woman across the circle from Mara who had her eyes closed and her hands open on her knees, palms up, like she was already in the middle of a conversation that had started before the meeting began. Mara watched her for a moment. There was something in that posture that undid her. Not the words, not the sermon. The posture. Open hands in a room full of people who were all, in their own way, holding on too tight. The prescription, Brother Elias said, is specific. Prayer and petition with thanksgiving. He emphasized those three things separately. Prayer, which is relationship, which is coming to God not as a vending machine, but as a father, talking to Him the way you would talk to someone who loves you and is not going anywhere. Petition, which means ask. Actually ask. State what you need. Do not be vague and polite, and sanitize your requests into something presentable. Tell God what is scaring you. Tell Him what you need. Be specific. Be honest. Bring the actual weight, not the cleaned up version of it. And then Thanksgiving. He paused on that one. Not Thanksgiving because everything is good, but Thanksgiving because God is good. And that has not changed, not 1 degree, regardless of what your circumstances look like right now. Mara thought about the last time she had prayed, really prayed. Not the rote before bed words she had learned as a child that she now used the way some people use white noise, not to communicate but to fill silence. She could not remember. She thought she might have been a teenager. She thought there might have been a different kind of desperate, a smaller one, a boy or an exam or fear about belonging. She had asked then. She could not remember if she had heard anything back, or she had simply stopped listening. After the meeting, she did not drive straight home. She sat in the church parking lot with the engine off, and the windows fogging slightly, and the orange glow of a street lamp making the rain on the windshield look like something from a painting. She was not sure what she was waiting for. She was not even sure she was waiting. She was just not ready to go back to the apartment yet, back to the silence that was somehow louder than any room she had ever been in. She started to pray. It came out less like prayer and more like confession, which is maybe what real prayer usually is. She said out loud to the foggy windshield in the rainy parking lot, and whatever was listening, "I am so scared." She said it like she had never said it to another person, like she had been storing those words somewhere internal and pressurized for 41 days, and they needed out. "I am so scared about my mother. I am scared about the future. I am scared about all the things I cannot control, and I have been trying to control them anyway, and it is making me into someone I do not want to be. Someone who cannot sleep, someone who rehearses grief before it arrives, someone who is so busy preparing for loss that I am losing the present, losing the now, losing the actual moments I could be spending with her while she is here, and I am here, and we are still in this together." She stopped. The rain tapped on the roof. She felt, in a way she could not have named or explained or defended in a logical conversation, that she was being listened to, not heard the way a room hears you when you talk into it, heard the way a person hears you when they're looking at you and their whole attention is on your face, and they are not thinking about what they're going to say next. They are just completely, fully there. She kept going. She said, "I need peace. I need the kind of peace that does not depend on the outcome, because I cannot know the outcome. I cannot manufacture a good outcome through enough worry. I know that. I have known that. But knowing it has not stopped me from trying. So I need something that is outside of my trying. I need something I cannot produce for myself." She sat in the quiet for a long time after that. The rain slowed. The street lamp held its place. She did not receive an audible answer. There was no voice, no lightning, no suddenly resolved circumstance. Her mother still had cancer. The treatment still stretched ahead, uncertain and difficult. The future was still the future, unmapped, unguaranteed, requiring a kind of faith that does not come naturally to people who are good at planning and bad at surrender. But something changed. It was a thing Brother Elias had described, the peace that transcends understanding. She could not have explained it to anyone. She would not have been able to defend it in a debate. It was not logical. It was not the product of new information, or resolved fear, or answered questions. It was more like a guard had arrived, something standing at the door of her chest that had been wide open and wind-battered for 41 nights, standing there now with its arms crossed, not letting every fearful thing walk straight in anymore. She drove home. She made tea she did not need. She sat by the window and watched the rain finish. And sometime before midnight, for the first time in 41 days, she fell asleep. This is what we need to understand about peace. The biblical kind. The kind Paul was describing for his prison cell. The kind that belongs to a category entirely different from the peace the world offers. The world offers peace as a product of circumstances. The world says, you will have peace when things are resolved, when the diagnosis comes back clean, when the relationship is repaired, when the finances stabilize, when the thing you are afraid of either happens and you survive it or doesn't happen and you can breathe again. The world packages peace as a reward at the end of the hard season. You endure the anxiety, you get through the tunnel, and peace is what waits on the other side in the light. But Paul is not describing that peace. He cannot be, because he is writing from prison. He has not arrived at the other side of the tunnel. He is in the middle of it. He is in the dark part, the part where you cannot see either end, and he is writing, "I have learned, in whatever state I am in, to be content. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Do not be anxious about anything." This is not the peace of resolved circumstances. This is something else entirely. This is the peace that exists inside the hard thing, not past it. This is the peace that Paul describes as something God gives, not something we generate. A peace that transcends understanding, which means a peace that does not require your mind to understand the situation, does not require your reasoning to have worked all out, does not require that all your questions have been answered before it arrives. It comes before the answers. It comes during the uncertainty. It comes and stands guard. That is the image Paul uses, a guard, a sentry. It stands watch over your heart and your mind so that when anxiety tries to rush back into the door, there is something there to meet it. You were not built to carry what Mara was carrying alone in that car. You were not designed for particular torture of 2 a.m. replays and rehearsed disasters and the relentless manufacturing of worst-case scenarios. That is not a character flaw. That is not weakness. That is simply what happens when a human being, made for relationship and trust and the relief of being truly known by someone trustworthy, tries instead to become their own God, tries to see all ends, control all outcomes, prepare for every possibility. We were not made for that. The weight of omniscience is not meant for human shoulders. And so God says in the most direct language available, give it to me, every worry, every fear, every sleepless calculation, everything you are rehearsing in your head right now, every conversation you are pre-writing, every catastrophe you are bracing for. Give it to me, not because the hard things are not hard, not because the fear is irrational, not because nothing bad will ever happen, but because you were never meant to carry it, and I was always meant to hold it, an exchange available to you. Your burden for my peace is still open, is always open, has never closed. Prayer is how you make the exchange, not performance, not polished spiritual language, not the right words in the right order, just honesty, just the open hands, just here is what I am carrying, here is what I need, here is what I'm afraid of. I cannot hold this anymore. I am giving it to you. And then this is the part that changes the chemistry of the whole transaction. Thanksgiving, not forced positivity, not the pretending that everything is fine, but the deliberate return to what is true. God is good. He has been good. He will be good. That is not canceled by the hard thing I am walking through. That is not negated by the unanswered question. It is a foundation that holds even when everything built on top of it is shaking. Mara called her mother the next morning. She did not have a script. She did not manage the conversation from a distance of perform calm. She said, I love you. She said, I have been so scared. She said, I'm not going anywhere. They talked for 2 hours and cried some and laughed some and made plans to spend the following Saturday together doing nothing in particular, just being in the same room, breathing the same air, not waiting for the other side of anything. That Saturday came. They made soup, the kind that takes all afternoon and makes the whole house smell like something from childhood. They watched a movie they had both seen before. Her mother fell asleep in the armchair with a blanket pulled up to her chin, and Mara sat across from her in the quiet and felt something so complete and present and real that the only word she had for it, the only word that came anywhere close, was peace. Not because everything was resolved. The treatments were still ongoing. The future was still unclear. The love she carried for her mother still lived in the same tender place where fear also lived and probably always would. But the guard was there, the peace that passes understanding, standing watch. And for the first time in longer than 41 days, Mara was not managing her fear from the outside. She was resting inside something larger than her fear. She was held. You do not have to figure everything out today. That is not what is being asked of you. What is being asked is smaller and harder and more transforming than that. What is being asked is that you bring it to him. All of it, the weight you have been carrying alone, the fear you have been managing in silence, the worry you have been rehearsing in the dark. Open your hands. Say it out loud, or say it quietly, or say it in a parking lot with a fogged windshield and rain on the roof. Tell God what you need. Tell him what is scaring you. Add your thanksgiving not because you feel it, but because it is true. And then receive what he gives. Not answers, not resolved circumstances, not the end of the hard thing, but a peace that your mind did not manufacture and cannot explain, and that will stand guard over the parts of you most vulnerable to fear. That peace is available to you right now, in whatever you are walking through, not on the other side of it. right in the middle of it, right here, right now. That is the peace Paul was describing from his prison cell. That is what he wanted you to know, that the God who holds the universe also holds your specific, personal, named, and counted fear. And he is saying to you, the same way he has always been saying it, with the same patience and the same unchanging love, bring it to me, all of it. I am not tired of carrying what you keep picking back up. Bring it to me again, and again, and again, every single time. My peace is not running out. My presence in the middle of your hard thing has not faded. I am here, and I am enough.